Greetings, brothers and sisters. Storm, hell in Texas, jails freezing to death and starving. I have a lot of things to cover today. I'm going to talk a little bit about this Arctic blast that hit so many people, including me and my family. I have some stories to tell. I have some video of my puppies running around outside and feeding our cows and the chickens after this, snowstorm. And so I'm not going to show that here, but I'll hopefully get that up tomorrow or today or tomorrow. And then, but I want to talk a little bit about this weather coming up and some other things, Demi Lovato and some COVID stuff, Rush Limbaugh and some other things. But first, let's go to this guy, JoJo. He had some interesting things he said at the town halls, which I knew he would. He had a town hall. I didn't watch it because I knew people would send me clips. My wife sent me this one.
It's been 4 weeks. What's it like? How's it different?
I get up in the morning and look at Jill and say, where the hell are we?
So not different at all. Just a typical day of the life of JoJo and Jill. Joe and Jill went up to Capitol Hill.
All right, sir.
Good to see you, man. Hey, folks. How are you? Good to be back, man.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, sir.
And you know you enjoy being home with the baby more. I don't want to hear that stuff.
I do, yes. Yeah, he's 9.5 months, so I'm very happy.
It. No. Everybody knows I like kids better than people.
I saw a picture of you with your...
Yeah, he does. You know, what do kids become, JoJo? Do they become people? When are they people, JoJo? When are kids people? He likes kids better than people. So let's go to this. This is the Huffington Post headline about Rush Limbaugh. Bigot, misogynist, homophobe, crank, Rush Limbaugh, dead. And this is pretty harsh, right? I never liked Rush Limbaugh. I mean, I think he was somebody who had a negative effect on the world. And, you know, again, I'm not a right-wing person, a Republican person, or any of these things, which so many people in the truth community are. And so Rush Limbaugh was, to me, a big part of the problem and just sort of obnoxious. And I don't have this sense of respect for the dead. Like people say respect the dead. And I'm like, you know, people lived their life. They either had a positive effect or they didn't. And they might have had a positive effect on somebody and not on you, right? I mean, you can respect the loved ones of the dead. You know, I can understand that as being a thing. But a soul's a soul. Wonderful Whispers message today. This was the Whispers message given. There's a whisper a day that comes out. This is a channeled message from this French woman who's no longer with us. And most of these messages come from Babaji, the second master of the heartfulness system. So I'm editing this, and I want to say I just made it a part of the default settings where on all my future videos on this channel and apocalaughsnow channel, my other channel, if you go to the description box under this video or any video in the future, you will find a link to a whisper a day where you can put in your email address and receive an email. Once in a while it gets spammed or something like this, but you know, just got to work the problem. And I often get questions from people who, if they just scroll down and clicked on the description box under my video, and I'm sure this happens to lots of other YouTubers, the answer is already there. There's a variety of links that I leave about, you know, various things from my books to the heartfulness system to other things. I'm a backup channel where you can, you know, Facebook page and Instagram page, all these things. So a lot of questions can be answered by just going to the description box below this video. And if you're interested in receiving these messages, they come freely every day, one message every day. And they are, you know, when I read them, they have a very spiritual effect, like a transformative effect. And it's just something I look forward to receiving every day. And, you know, it's just oftentimes the whisper message is very consistent with what's going on in the world. All right, back to the regularly scheduled programming. Beloved Master Reverend Babaji Maharaj, Wednesday, October 28th, 2015, 10 a.m. All these messages represent a priceless asset. They are not recognized as such by all. But for many, these writings are important and necessary contribution to the daily practice. They nourish the mind and the heart in its deep aspiration for the divine, a yearning not always recognized by humans who are captured and caught up in the movement of life in all of its manifestation. The call of the heart is latent in everyone. Specific circumstances sometimes bring it out, and in lasting ways. There, the main thing is accomplished, that which is most important, the human being on his or her journey towards the divine, a journey that is decisive in life. When the soul opens to the transcendence of the spirit, the true meaning of life is revealed and finally defined in all its fullness, being recognized as the most precious asset existing in this world. An incarnation is short compared to eternity. What is a life? A breath, a nothing, and nothing more. It nonetheless deserves an unreserved commitment when the being is revealed to itself in its original beauty. One should then divest thyself of the unnecessary and avoid wasting time, which is precious in more ways than one. Each incarnation is decisive in this great divine scheme, where what is accomplished is beyond the reach of human understanding. The power is indescribable. Recognizing and revering it denotes a certain wisdom that opens the gates of bliss. All our Abhyasis are on their way, a way that's surely widening for this mission. The best to all, carried by our wishes, the most potent ones, Babaji. And so with him saying a life is just a breath, I thought that was very telling in what I'm talking about here. People are obsessed with, death and the dead and things like this, and they're supposed to be revered, and so I just don't have that. I don't, it's just something that, I don't know. People are, if you were an a-hole when you were alive, then you were an a-hole, then you're dead, right? You either succeeded in making the world a better place or you did. And so I don't have any of that, oh, shame on you, or you're not respecting the dead. And I know if this was Nancy Pelosi, most Republicans would be saying the same sort of thing. So they have no reason to cry or whine about how Rush Limbaugh is being disrespected. But why do this, right? Why pretend that you're into some sort of, the left thinks they're so much better than the right. I mean, the right thinks they're better than the left, but not in the same way. There's a pompousness to the left and the left media, which is, why I'm always harder on the left now, because they're just so arrogant and they're just so full of themselves, and they're like children, right? They think they're so much more intellectual and more developed than the rednecks that voted for Trump, but they're very petty and, they're never happy, right? The liberals, and I don't mean the cool ones that are actually spiritual and, people who know that the system is beastly, right? Because there's liberals who are truthers as well. There's true liberals. But the people that are, the fake liberals, the people that are carrying water for the beastly system, like Huffington Post and all these mainstream media organizations that think they're so superior, and they're constantly being caught as being hypocritical. Because this stuff is, if Republicans say this, they would be like, how dare you, right? How dare you say this about some great person like Nancy Pelosi or whoever it is. So I felt this was just harsh and, unnecessary, right? The guy's dead. He hasn't been relevant now for a while. And, all the stuff that's going on with the division and the Republican Party is just unnecessary. And, you get whatever you get. You have power now, right? But you're not going to have it forever. Like, this stuff is always going to come back around. So let's go with this Cruella de Vil. The name of the movie is Cruella, where, again, this is where the villain is the protagonist. We saw this where Disney's now taking from their universe villains. They did it with Maleficent in 2 movies, horrible movies, where Angelina Jolie, who is sort of a villain in herself, is playing the hero as Maleficent, Maleficent was a villain from the movie Sleeping Beauty, and Cruella was a villain from 101 Dalmatians, where she was going to murder dogs to make a coat, right? Which nowadays is even worse in terms of, the anti-fur movement. And yet somehow they've created another villain who is the protagonist. This seems to be the trend now, where the villains are actually the hero.
From the very beginning, I realized I saw the world differently than everyone else. That didn't sit well with some people. That I wasn't for everyone.
Aside from what I already said, you can tell this is going to suck.
I guess they were always...
There you go. Her name is Cruella DeVille. Cruella Devil, right? And, I mean, it comes right in here. They're just hitting you. If this is for kids, it's for kids. Here comes the devil right at you.
scared that I'd be a psycho.
She's a psychopath for Disney. The devil, they're presenting the devil as a hero. She's cruel and the devil.
But a new day brings new opportunities. And I was ready to make a statement.
She's got attitude, kids, right? You need to have attitude like her. She's making her big entrance here. She's got confidence and she's going places.
How does the saying go?
She's wearing some sort of eyes wide shut mask to the party, kids. Hey, kids, it's an eyes wide shut masquerade party.
I am woman. Hear me roar.
She's a feminist, too.
I'm just
Bats.
getting started, darling.
She's cruel, kids, but she's cool, too. She's a good protagonist. Freemasonic floor.
The thing is, I was born brilliant. Born bad.
It's okay to be bad and brilliant and, you know, it's okay to be bad and cruel, kids. It's 2021. She's the devil.
A little bit mad.
Good, they're burning down houses in this one.
I'm Cruella.
She's Cruella, and she's the protagonist, and you're going to root for her, kids, whether you like it or not. So I was editing this, and sometimes I'll see something the second time I watch it. And I kind of noticed these dogs, and I looked at them. These are demon dogs. Look at how they're portrayed here. Look at the lighting. They're growling at her. You know, this is a brief clip. It's like a 2-second clip or under a 2-second clip in the trailer. But you see, this is how the Dalmatians are being portrayed in Cruella, as opposed to how they were portrayed in 101 Dalmatians, right? Where they're the protagonists and they're these cute dogs and they got happy faces and the movie's light, right? There's all this, you know, the shading, the tone, all of it, the mood, instead of these dark-eyed, you know, raccoon-eyed demon dogs on the left and this dingy lighting, they're growling and aggressive, where Cruella's the hero. And so they're just flipping the script and saying everything that we told you before about this story is false, just like with Maleficent. Really the devil, because Maleficent's Baphomet and Cruella DeVille is the devil, right? It's the evil and the devil. And so this is where they're saying, no, kids, everything that you knew about good and bad is wrong, and the devil's actually the good guy, and these Dalmatians are demon dogs, and Cruella's the hero. U.S. Attorney, FBI investigating Cuomo's handling of nursing home deaths. It's not going well for Cuomo's. He was a hero, not anymore. You know, Trump is gone, and things like this are starting to come out. Texas water shortage adds to power crisis as new winter storm moves in. The disaster in Texas, but other places. I have people writing to me from various locations in the South. I'll talk about this more in a bit, and I want to, you know, share my own story later on about it, our own family story, because it was was an epic storm. And so I'm in the editing process, and sometimes people send me things, or, you know, and I'll be making a video about it, or I'll see something on the internet that will add to the story, so I'll stick it in somewhere. I'll add it. Texas mayor who wrote "Only the strong will survive" amid deadly winter storm, says he's resigned. And he said on a Facebook post, this is Tim Boyd's Facebook post, "Let me hurt some feelings while I have a minute. No one owes you or your family anything, nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during trying times like this. Sink or swim, it's your choice. The city and the country, along with the power providers or any other service, owes you nothing." I'm sick and tired of people looking for a blanket handout. If you don't have electricity, step up and come up with a game plan to keep your family warm and safe. If you have no water, you deal without and think outside the box and survive and supply water to your family. If you're sitting at home in the cold because you have no power and are sitting there waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're lazy, is direct result of your raising, how you were raised. Only the strong will survive and the weak will perish. Folks, God has given us the tools to support ourselves in times like this. This is sadly a product of a socialist government where they feed people to believe that the few will work and others will become dependent for handouts. And I'm sorry that you have been dealing without electricity and water. Yes, but I'll be damned if I'm going to provide for anyone that is capable of doing it for themselves. Go out there and generate your own electricity. Build some sort of turbine. We have lost sight of those in need and those that take advantage of the system. So this is not entirely untrue. Obviously there's things that are stupid and goofy about this. This guy might be, have a little bit of QB in him, but it's not entirely untrue. The part that sucks is that everyone's dependent on electricity and the system. You understand this. I say it over and over again because I lived on a homestead and I'm working on building another homestead now. And what I always tell people, when people used to ask me, what's the biggest thing you've learned from it, I would say how dependent we all are on the system, on the beast. Like I didn't know until I started to do stuff for myself, my family and I were doing for ourselves, and it's a lot harder. There's a big learning curve and there's a lot of work and a lot of knowledge. And I have a lot of respect for pioneer people on how capable they were and all the different skill sets they have. And so we've all become dependent on the system. And this mayor, this goofy mayor, doesn't recognize that part of it, that everyone's dependent on the system and we're dependent on electricity. And most people are dependent on electricity for water and heat. And so when the electrical grid goes down, this is what you're going to see. This is a warning sign for people to understand this is what it's like. Most people have about, a day's worth of water or fluids, even less for some people, and how you're going to flush your toilet, how you're going to dispose of your human waste, especially when it's cold outside, and they don't have the proper ability to deal with severe conditions. I'm going to cover this more in a narrative at the end of the video. And so most people don't have any way to survive without electricity and, whatever else, right? In terms of these things that can go down without gas, and then also getting information on the internet and things, people communicating, and now you have people locked in their houses and have whatever amount of food, but can they cook their food? What's their ability to cook their food? And we're talking about a big state with a lot of population that's unprepared for this. But the part that's true is that, at the end of the day, the government's an illusion, and this is how they feel about you. This guy's just being honest about how most politicians and people who run the system think about it when, as long as they're making money off of you, as long as you're doing and contributing to them, as soon as things go south, they're like, hey, take care of yourself, right? You're on your own. What do you think there's some promise? Because there was a promise. What he doesn't acknowledge is that when people left their homesteads, and I talked about this in so many videos, there was this promise from the people who run the system. When your ancestors left the farm, left rural living, homestead living, tribal living, these types of things, village-based community living, or they came from other countries where they were leaving behind their hard lifestyles. I mean, think about the promise that's given on the, somewhere in New York, there's this "give me your tired masses," right? All these people coming from other countries, America inviting in immigrants to come in here. The streets are paved with gold. And there was this promise that if you leave all your skills behind, we're going to take care of you. The system is, it's invincible. And if you can give up all your homesteading skills and all these things, give up your family even now, they're saying, right? You don't even need your family. You can learn from us on the internet. We'll teach you stuff at school, and your peers will teach you things. You don't need your parents anymore, right? You don't need your family anymore. I mean, that's the stuff they're saying. And then when things go south and you're just with your local community, you don't need your neighbors anymore. You can have friends, all over the world on the internet. But then when things go south, they're like, hey, screw you, take care of yourself. It's not our responsibility. And that's, there's some truth in that, because that's what a lot of these people believe. Demi Lovato's near fatal overdose causes 3 strokes and heart attack. Now, yeah, she survived it, but that's going to cause some permanent damage, right? Whatever she was doing. Well, here's a trailer. And it says Demi Lovato dancing with the devil.
Hello, I'm 7-year-old Demi Lovato.
So, being a child star and a Disney star led to all this, Now they have Cruella making it worse.
It's just a little red wine, I'll be fine.
I've had so much to say over the past 2 years, wanting to...
See, again, this is somebody who's not successful, right? This is somebody who, was a childhood star, battling addictions, almost killed herself. And it's the celebration of the broken. And this is, one of the problems is kids now look up to, celebrities and, fictional characters like Maleficent, broken people who have gone to the dark side, unsuccessful in making the world a better place. Younger people, Billie Eilish, right? This is, Billie Eilish, people who are suicidal and depressed and having all these issues, especially now during COVID. Got some COVID stuff to get to as well.
That we all need to talk about. I don't even know why I'm sober anymore.
I was dancing with the devil, out of control.
Oh, hey, be careful.
So again, people go through things, and she, has a dour view of her Disney stardom, just like with the Dalmatians, right? You had the Dalmatians shown as one way in terms of them being bright and cheery and the protagonists, and now they're showing the Dalmatians as being demon dogs. The way that she opened up this video is a dour view of her childhood and being a childhood celebrity, and that led to real difficulty with addictions and depression and mental health issues and things. And she was dancing with the devil, right? Cruella de Vil. And Dancing with the Devil here is Disney and childhood celebrity and the myth that being famous and rich will make you happy.
TMZ reports the second.
Is she alive?
People are gasping.
Her oxygen levels are dangerously low. I said, what do you mean she's gonna make it?
You're watching all of her blood come out of her body into a machine.
She was like, I can't see anything.
I had 3 strokes. I had a heart attack. My doctors said that I had 5 to 10 more minutes.
And so, we'll just let this thing finish up here.
Or their headlines or their Twitter comments.
Bye! When you're dancing with the devil.
So again, there's a spiritual solution to this, right? Because these are all people, Cruella de Vil, Demi Lovato, all these people, Cuomo's, Biden and Trump and all these people are pursuing material greatness. They want to be great. They want to be wealthy. They want to be famous. And that has, played out. We know how that ends for all of them. We know that people who seek to be famous and powerful, and not that, some people have to be that. That might be your role to play. But people who want that, that's the American dream, to be rich and famous. We see this with YouTube celebrities. We see this with social media celebrities. It doesn't give you happiness. It's a false goal. And most people who, almost 100% of the time suffer tragedy, heartbreak, and are miserable, and they do damage to themselves spiritually. I'll come back to this because, but I mean, this idea of connecting to God internally, and then if you have a purpose that God wants from you, and it includes fame in some way, you can balance that out with spiritual reality and not allow your ego to grow into this diva type of manifestation, the heartfulness meditation that I do. But there's more here.
I think it messes with your breathing a little bit. I have experienced some games where I don't want to say struggling to breathe, but you get fatigued a lot quicker than normal. Just running up and down the court.
So he's talking about having COVID, and I know exactly what he's talking about, just from my own experience, and it sucks, right? And this is, I don't know when he had it, but it was a while ago. And let him finish here.
A few times it's easier to get, out of breath or, tired a lot faster. I've noticed that since I've had COVID, and it's just something I'm working on. It's gotten better, since the first game I played, but I still deal with it from time to time.
So let's start with the COVID thing first. There is a term called long haulers that my brother told me about. We were talking the last time. And that's people who suffer long-term effects of COVID. Like they just don't get better. And they, are basically sick all the time. And again, I want to say this for you COVID deniers. You're not your comments aren't welcome here. And I can understand why you might believe that COVID's fake. I know there's a lot of people who do. That's fine. I don't care what you believe. Just don't leave a comment. Your opinion's not welcome here. We know that there are people that believe that COVID doesn't exist. Fine. I just said that so everyone knows that you don't need to write a comment, because we know there are people out there that are just so positively sure that COVID is fake. We know that, right? We know that exists. We know there are people out there with theories and putting out videos and things, which always happens, which, I understand. If I didn't have it, if I hadn't had it, I would not be 100% sure it exists. Like I would know. I would know one way or another. But having had it, then having people to tell me, no, you just had the flu. And then I'll get someone say, no, you just did have the flu. Like they just don't get it. Like it's not about COVID being real or fake. It's about you being an asshole. Like that you don't get what this is about. Like when I'm talking about this, it's about you being arrogant enough to tell me that I don't know what happened to my own body. Like I'm not mature and aware and self-aware enough of understanding that I had something that was devastating and weird, and that doesn't act like any other illness that I had before. It doesn't even act like an illness, because you can feel 100% fine when you're the sickest. Like I would, during the day I would have no symptoms at all, just a little bit of fatigue. And then at night I couldn't breathe and just sucked. It sucked. I couldn't sleep, just bad, nightmares and stuff. I mean, just, horrible. Then just all these other symptoms, and then the prolonged after effects. Like you can feel completely better and fine. But what Jason Tatum was saying, I experienced and still experience from time to time. During the summer, I was fine. Like I had it during like April. I was one of the, early people to have it. And then, it messes with your heart in some way. People say it's about the lungs, but I didn't experience that. I didn't have a lot of mucus. I didn't have any, it wasn't like I had like a regular cold. I had a sore throat, which went into my chest, and I had trouble breathing. My wife got it as well, not as bad, but she had the same issues. And then it just seemed to be prolonged. And then like if something happened emotionally, or, if I was upset, or, when my wife got upset, or something would happen where you just felt a little bit down, it seemed to come back, right? And then it seemed to go into my digestion. My stomach was bloating, and I just didn't have any energy for like months. And then it seemed to mess with my heart. My heart was doing weird things. I've started reading about it, seeing that a lot of people had vascular issues with it. And then, I went and saw this practitioner. I've talked about this before. A holistic chiropractor. I got all this blood work done. And he said my hormone levels were really low. My testosterone level was really low. My immune system was compromised. My thyroid wasn't functioning the way it was supposed to function. I had, I was close to I was pre-diabetic. I mean, I had all these issues, which I realized I wasn't digesting my food correctly. It ravaged my whole body. And I was going into it, I wasn't, necessarily healthy. Like I wasn't in prime health and just the way that it all played out. And so I took these supplements and I took, an interest in getting healthy. I always took herbs. My daughter's studying to be an herbalist, and, I've known about various herbs and things like this. We took all these things, echinacea and supplements and vitamin D, and I took, tonic water, zinc and things like this. I mean, I went through a whole regimen to get rid of it to when I had it, and then afterwards to get my body strong and my immune system strong again. And then the whole summer, my energy level returned, and I was feeling great. And then around election time, and I don't know if that was just because it started to be wintry, and also there was the stress, around the election. I don't know what happened. I got sick like a week before the election. Not just slightly, not like real COVID stuff. It was just the after effects of COVID. Like it's just in your system, or there's damage done, or whatever it might be. But many people have experienced this, and I think it's something that you'll be, everyone's going to have some version of COVID, and it's going to show itself when your system is weak, whenever you're run down, you're not getting enough sleep, you're stressed out. You're going to have, people will have these symptoms, whatever way it manifests in each person. Difficulty breathing, shortness of breath. There's a difference between when you have it and it's in your lungs and it's causing you shortness of breath, or when it's affecting your heart in some way. And when you get fatigued and you have like trouble breathing, like you get out of breath quicker, like you can breathe fine, your lungs are fine, you're able to get air into your lungs, you're not having some sort of asthmatic reaction, but you just start to walk and you get out of breath like you're out of shape, which I am, and so, which I already was. And so it just made this thing worse. It's exacerbated. And this is something where, it's not killing a lot of people, COVID. Respectively, it's killing old people. It's not killing young people. But I think a lot of people have this in their system, and as time goes on, I mean, who knows how it's going to play out. But again, there's these people called long haulers that have it all the time. It's like some sort of chronic fatigue thing, and it wears on you, and it wears on your body or whatever, and it just makes things harder and more stressful when we're entering into a crisis phase. And then we have the changing weather patterns. Think about this, and I know a lot of people probably have theories about it. I haven't read any or seen anything. A lot of people are probably thinking this is governmental, right? This is a part of some governmental situation. But we have every 12,000 years, there's at least a mini ice age. And so this is what could be happening, because the cold Arctic air had never reached Texas, at least in terms of modern memory, like it has here. See, what you have is warm air coming up from the southern hemisphere, from the equator, warm weather patterns, and then you have cold air coming down from the Arctic. And during the winter, when there's less sunlight, you see that there's more Arctic air, and that's why you have states in sort of the middle area that get cold, and then, down south a little bit. It's definitely cooler down south. But you get into Florida and places like that. It's almost like summer, even in the winter. Some of these hot states, Texas would be included in that. And so they get some winter, but not so much, in the mountains and areas like that. But for the most part, they get no snow. I've lived in places that are, I lived in Atlanta and Florida, and occasionally they get a cold day in Florida, and they get, people already were talking about cold in Florida where it got down to the 30s about a month ago. And so this is, there seems to be climatic changes coming. And you have these places, when I lived in Atlanta, it would snow every once in a while, and the snow would hit the ground and melt, or it caused a little bit, like, a little bit would stay on the roads. And they didn't have the equipment. The place wasn't built for snow, right? Even though it got cold there in the 40s and 30s. Then you go up a little bit, into Virginia and these areas, North Carolina, they get a lot of freezing rain and things, especially in the mountainous areas. It's a little bit warmer. South Carolina, Georgia, it gets warmer as you go down the East Coast. Then, of course, we have, southern Alabama, Louisiana, and Texas that are all on the Gulf Coast, right? They're all in the Gulf of New Mexico's there, and that's very warm water. And so that keeps those areas pretty much, snow-free. And then all of a sudden, the Arctic air reached down in this epic snowstorm. Again, I have some videos and stories of what we went through here. But this is something where this is, this was an epic snowstorm. There was a blizzard that I lived through when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, it was great. Like, we didn't have school for a week. And I was telling my wife about it, right? She went through the same thing in, in Ohio. I was in Connecticut. And so I remember walking down to the store, the corner, where there was this corner drugstore where I used to get comic books and candy. And it's like, I'm home from school and I'm walking down the road and there are live power lines just laying on the ground. I'm like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. I don't even know, young. And there was just these, the sidewalks were cleared off, but there was like 2 feet of snow on the side. And even higher on one side, it's 2 feet, and the other high side where it had been plowed by the road was probably over my head. There's giant snow piles everywhere. For a kid, it was like some, like a miraculous event. We didn't have to go to school for a week, and we played out in the snow, and it was, wonderful. But for places that don't get snow, they just don't know how to drive. Their tires aren't built for snow. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the salt. They don't have any of these things. And the electrical grid wasn't made for this, as we see in Texas and all these other places. Water pipes are freezing. I mean, this is an epic disaster. And you're going to see more of this because I know from the whispers in the Brighter World predictions, prophecies, that it's going to be extreme. What you're going to see is extreme heat, extreme cold, extreme drought, or extreme flooding and rainstorms and things. So you're going to go from one extreme to the other, and this is just going to keep on happening. Everything's going to be more extreme. Instead of a nice mild blend of, whatever, climactic sort of harmony, where you have, summers that are pretty good and, that are hot but not so hot, winters that are not so bad. You're going to have extremes, whatever it is. We're entering in a time of extremism where things are going to be like this. And it's not, you can say it's man-made or not, doesn't matter. It's a part of what we're going to go through. Things aren't going to be easy anymore, and it's going to be unpredictable. You might see snow in the summer and 80-degree days in the winter. I mean, there's going to be all these things that are going to be, odd, just like the COVID. It's not going to be consistent. It's just when you think you're over something, it's going to come back around. Like, it'll get warm again, and then there'll be some Arctic blast, and there'll be another epic snowstorm, and May or whatever. It's just going to be like this moving forward, where people are going to be unsettled, where there's going to be a sense of loss of control economically, loss of control politically, loss of control of everything. The COVID, all these things. I mean, loss of control of your life in different ways. People are going to feel like the system is no longer invincible. The system is no longer, you can count on it to overcome the shifting patterns of nature and all the rest of it. And you can see right now there is this celebration of evil and weakness and being broken and being depressed. I mean, all these things are being exacerbated by people staying home and living unhealthy lives addicted to the internet, where people have an internet persona and they like their internet persona more, right? Where people can, create social media accounts and use filters to make their appearance better than it is. Think about that. That they have, basically an avatar that they create on the internet. And they have this alternate persona who they like so much better than themselves, the person they wish they were. And then they, have this existence where they're not in real physical contact with people. And, their bodies aren't being used effectively. It's just all the stuff I've talked about with electromagnetic poisoning and all these things that go with it. And so this is where we are right now, during this sort of epic time. It's a transitionary time and people are lost, and their heroes are people who are broken, people who are, whether it be Cruella DeVille or Demi Lovato or any of these. I mean, I'm talking about young people. And then you see on social media, the people that are being promoted are messed up in some way or another. A lot of drama, a lot of weakness, a lot of big ego, selfishness. They're not serving other people. They're not good people in some way or another. They're not good examples of human potential, and they're not spiritual. They're not connected to God, and they have, a lower vibratory condition. This is why I talk about, the heartfulness meditation so much, because for me, more and more, it is obviously the only solution is a spiritual one. You can't fix the material world. You can't fix the broken people. You can't control the nature. You can't stop the economy from collapsing. You can't make your politicians be good people and human beings. You can't count on the media to report the truth, right? You can't count on anything in terms of, anybody being good, right? Anybody being functional human beings. I mean, that's, it's becoming more and more obvious that there has to be some, desperate plea to God, that people have to reach up to God and find another way to get through what's developing into some sort of a, apocalyptic nightmare that's unfolding around us. And so for me, it's been the heartfulness meditation, which is a system designed for this very purpose, to help people connect to God in this tumultuous time, right? It's just a time of chaos and difficulty. And so connecting to God internally always helps, and benefiting spiritually when your material life is going into the crapper, because, because that's what's happening. That's what's going on now. And there was this, beautiful sentence from that Whispers message that I just read, where he says, specific circumstances sometimes bring it out. The call of the heart is latent in everyone. Specific circumstances sometimes bring it out, and in a lasting way. There's a call of your heart, a craving to reunite with God. Everyone has it deep inside their heart. It's something I experienced this for like 3 months, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Once in a while I feel it again because it's always there. But I experienced it, this longing to go back, this craving. It's a pain of the heart, the separation between God and your soul, right? It's that, exists in your heart. Your heart longs to be with your beloved. God's your beloved, right? And you have this longing to return to the source. And I experienced this for a couple of months because of I was having an intense sort of heartfulness time in my meditations. And it was really hard for me to care about my material life. And, I had young kids. I mean, it was I had things that you needed to be done. And all I really wanted to, think about was this, and all I could feel was this longing in my heart. I wake up and there was just this pain of love, right? I mean, when somebody has separation from somebody they love, like a loved one dies or is sick, or, you find out people that one of your loved ones is got cancer or is dying, or they're in some sort of desperate situation, or they're away from you, and, whatever it might be. You just want to be reunited. You're just, you worry about it. You're just, that's all you can think about. You try to distract yourself. But deep down, you have that feeling for God. Everyone has it in their heart. But, we cover it up because there's things to enjoy, and it's hard to function if you feel that all the time in terms of, functioning in the world as a material being. Because down deep, you have this much deeper feeling, this longing, your soul longing to return to the source, but you have your life to live. And so that's one of the unique sort of balances of the heartfulness system that allows people to have this, because there's no running away from your material life in the heartfulness system. Going to some ashram and just meditating all the time, and you can do it for short periods, but it's not like you just become a monk and you're celibate and you don't have a family and you meditate 18 hours a day and just, it's not a part of what the heartfulness system's about. You have a normal life, you have a family, you have a marriage, you have a career, whatever it is, and you participate and you contribute to society, but also you do this practice on the side. You also, at the same time, you have a spiritual goal. You have this essential spiritual goal, returning to the source. And so with him saying that there are circumstances, and sometimes those circumstances open up this craving in the heart, open up, your soul's purpose, and not all the time, because people have miseries and they never, use the misery as a way to connect to God. They never, it's never like sort of a switch or a trigger to help them on their spiritual life. And that's the test right now for people. When you realize that materially you're screwed, that we're not, going to have the same lifestyle and your material goals and your dreams and things that you were counting on, your pension's disappearing and the economy's crapping out and, everything's going to change and your lifestyle's going to change and, who knows how it's going to settle, this whole thing when, now we're entering into a chaotic period. But during this period, you can reassess your purpose of your existence and find your soul's path. This is what the heartfulness system does. It facilitates the internal connection, because what's happened is people have become so materialistic, they no longer, you come down to earth and your soul has a specific purpose. It has specific work it's supposed to do. It has specific experiences it has to live through. And then it's, why, if you do it in the right way, your soul gathers knowledge and it goes, farther along. It helps move your soul along in another place, because you have your physical body on planet Earth, and then you have your soul that has its existence in, it's inside your body, but also at the same time it's in another dimension, and it's a spiritual dimension, and your subtle bodies can get closer to God, and you can realize your higher qualities and things, and you can expand your heart and your consciousness. Your etheric heart can become a universal heart, and all these things. There's all this potential for spiritual growth. But what's happened is people forget about that, and they just get, it's like Stockholm Syndrome or whatever you want to call it. People get so invested in their material lives, they forget about their spiritual goal. And now this period of time is to remind people this is why you're here. The material world isn't why you're here. Like, it's partly why you're here, but you're still supposed to, do whatever you have to do in the material world and also be working on your spiritual goal. And during the Kali Yuga, that hasn't happened, and now it is. Like, now it has to happen. And those people who embrace this and allow these circumstances to open up the call of the heart, this is the true awakening. This is where you awaken in a way that's, can truly be called you're an awoken person to the real reason and purpose you're here. And then you can go about your business and thrive in a world that's falling apart, where everyone else is just screwed over, lost. They're going to feel like victims and celebrate their brokenness and just give up as soon as the system they're addicted to collapses. And so there's definitively two paths going forward: the people that are going to thrive and the people who are just going to be erased from history. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.